The Girl Who Built a Spider by George Brewington. Chapters 22 through 24. Chapter 22. Keep Alert. Teresa and John burst out of the sticky pineapple leather room like doves released from a cage. But Ashley did not follow. Teresa turned to try and convince Ashley to leave. "You really don't want to come with us? You want to stay and slice pineapple?" she asked. Ashley just stood there. Her eyes narrowed like she was angry with Teresa for tempting her into trouble once again. But who would want to spend a whole summer cutting pineapple when you could be inventing to your heart's delight instead? John went running toward his lab. "Wait!" Teresa shouted. "John, wait!" Teresa chased after him, leaving Ashley standing alone. John finally turned, out of breath from the sheer exhilaration of the escape. "Miss Curie will discover we're out and lock us right back up," Teresa said.
"Ha! I'd like to see her try. I have just the thing to stop her. Follow me."
She followed John to his lab. Unlike Teresa's neat and tidy workshop with welding tools hanging properly in their places, or Ashley's well-organized lab with every aquarium properly labeled, John's bubble factory was a wild and chaotic mess. He had opened every box of bubble-making tools supplied to him and tried them all. He had dropped plastic frames and bottles of soap on the floor whenever and wherever he was finished with them. Jars of biodegradable liquid plastic, cornstarch, and every kind of soap you could imagine were scattered around the room, half of them with their lids off, the other half spilled on the floor. Plastic tubing lay everywhere, and fans of all kinds had been turned on and left on, whirring and wasting valuable solar-powered electricity. John rummaged through a box in the back and returned with 2 electronic bubble machines. They looked like megaphones with handles. He handed one to Teresa.
"Check it out. You're holding the very best in modern bubble machinery, the quadruple bubble cone. Look inside."
Teresa turned the cone around to see that inside the cone were 4 smaller cones. John grinned ear to ear.
"Each of these cones inside has its own fan and 16-hole bubble wheel. So combined, the bubble cone blasts 64 bubbles a second, quadruple power. If Miss Curie tries anything, we blanket her with bubbles. We run, we hide, and then we get ready for another attack."
Teresa considered his battle plan. "I'm not sure bubbles will be enough to stop a robot with a wheel for feet." John picked up a bottle of soap solution off the floor to fill Teresa's quadruple bubble cone.
"I have 5 older brothers and 2 older sisters. I have defeated every one of them with bubbles. Bubbles confuse and distract your opponent and make the floor slippery. If we see her, fire bubbles at her wheel. She won't be able to get traction, and the bubbles will rise to block her vision. Then we run."
She had to give it to John. He could think fast under pressure. But Teresa didn't want to make Miss Curie an enemy. If they did, she'd never let them back into Flax Industries. "I think it might be better if we found Dr. Flax first," she said. "Miss Curie will listen to him over Zachary. If he tells her we should be working on our inventions rather than cutting pineapples all summer, she'll listen."
"Well, I'm not going to cut pineapples no matter what anyone says. I'm here to make a bubble organ."
"I know. That's why we need to find the doctor. I bet he's safe and somewhere in this lab. Miss Curie is programmed to protect the owner of Flax Industries at all costs, so I think she knows exactly where he is. Otherwise, she'd be more upset. She was in too good of a mood this morning."
"You think she's locked him away in one of these rooms?"
Teresa shrugged.
"Well, let's start looking. You might want to get your spider."
That was a good idea. They went to her lab next and got Bonnie. Teresa took the driver's seat. Then, armed with quadruple bubble cones, they slowly crawled down the walkway toward the eastern wing. Teresa could feel the eerie quiet that filled the laboratory like a blanket. The birds had stopped chirping. They could hear only the rush of water in the walls and the clickety-click, click-click, clickety-click-click of Bonnie's feet on the stone path before them. They looked nervously from tree to tree and bush to bush expecting Miss Curie or even Zachary to jump out, grab them, and haul them back to the leather room. Teresa had never been so nervous.
"Sure would be nice to have that sensory amplifier right about now,"
John said. Teresa agreed, but all they had were their normal, unamplified senses. "Keep alert," Teresa said. "Be ready for anything. Who knows what Zachary and Miss Curie are capable of?" She scared herself by saying it out loud. She remembered how Zachary had frightened her by the way he had spoken to Miss Curie.
"Wait! Stop!"
John said after they passed several rooms.
"Do you hear that?"
Teresa took her foot off the pedal and listened carefully. Behind the rushing water in the walls, just up ahead, there was a muted voice, desperate, begging for help. It was the voice of Dr. Flax. Teresa drove her spider forward. Clickety, click, 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 clickety, clickety, click, click.
"Please, help me. Help me, please."
John pointed to one of the doors. Clickety, clickety, click, click, clickety, clickety, click, click.
"Please, I know you're out there. Teresa, please."
Dr. Flax's voice was coming from the room labeled Drones.
"Listen,"
John whispered.
"Teresa, is that you? It must be you because I hear the footsteps of that wonderful mechanical spider. Teresa, I beg you, help me."
Chapter 23. Are you really in there? Teresa put her ear up to the steel gate. She heard a buzzing sound coming and going, loud, then soft, then loud again. "Dr. Flax?" she asked. "Are you really in there?"
"Yes, Teresa, please. These drones are swirling around me, pecking at me every time they pass. I beg you, open the gate." "Okay,"
John said, getting right to work. He jumped to the room's rainbow-colored 13-wedge animal combo lock.
"We don't know D,"
John said.
"but we know R is blue crab, O is bottlenose dolphin, N is great egret, E is blue crab too, and S is red-tailed hawk. We should be able to figure this out. I'll try bobcat for D."
John was already punching in the combo. Wait, Teresa whispered. "Dr. Flax should be able to open the door himself." "Open the door yourself," she shouted through the door. "Enter the combo."
"I can't remember it, Teresa, but I have no fear that John will eventually get it."
But how could the doctor forget? The alpha animal code was the same for every lock and every door. Something wasn't right. John kept punching in animals. He tried copperhead snake, blue crab, bottlenose dolphin, great egret, blue crab, red-tailed hawk. Nothing. Teresa knelt down at the base of the door. "Dr. Flax, are you really in there?"
"Yes, Teresa, it's me."
"But, Dr. Flax," she said, "you've always been so polite and referred to us by our last names. You've always called me Miss Brown. I think it's very strange that you're suddenly calling me Teresa."
"Well, Teresa, in this moment of urgency, I thought we might shed formality and adopt a more familiar relationship. You may call me Neil."
Teresa shook her head. "It's not you." But John was working too fast to be stopped in time. He punched redfish, blue crab, bottlenose dolphin, great egret, blue crab, red-tailed hawk. Ding! John had guessed the right combination, and the gate slid open. Thomas Edison, in his puffy black coat and winter scarf with electric blue eyes blazing, knocked Teresa over as he ran out of the room as fast as his little metal legs could carry him.
"No, Teresa, I'm not Dr. Flax, and I hope you'll forgive me,"
Thomas yelled as he wasted no time racing through the laboratory toward the eastern wing. But he wasn't the only robot they had released. John gasped when he saw them fly out of the room. Teresa ducked as they flew right toward her. "What have you done?" Marie Curie yelled from the bridge that connected their walkway to the opposite one. "Children, what have you done?" Teresa looked up to see hundreds of drones flying free from the room, their propellers buzzing. They scattered every possible way, each one looking for an available spot of dirt, because every single drone they had released carried one tiny tree sapling, and every last drone had been programmed by Dr. Flax to complete one singular mission: to plant tree saplings wherever possible. Chapter 24, The Prototype. "You reckless children have doomed us all!" Miss Curie screamed. She spun in circles, not knowing who to chase first, her brother, Thomas Edison, who was barreling down the upper walkway, or the drones that came flying out after him. The drones got right to work. Dr. Flax had programmed each one with the same 4-step cycle: pick up a tree sapling, drill a hole in an available patch of dirt, plant that tree sapling, then return to the first step. They buzzed around Teresa and John in a swarm, even more frightening than the robotic bees. They sparkled with the sun glinting off their solar paneled backs, diving for any available patch of mud to plant their trees. Teresa and John jumped in the spider to chase Thomas, but the determined robot was dashing through the laboratory much faster than 12 miles per hour. Maria was after him too. "Go, Bonnie, go!" Teresa cried desperately. John blasted bubbles at the drones that flew too close to them with his bubble cone, but the barrage did little to slow them down. The drones buzzed every possible way, searching for dirt, not seeming to mind if they almost took John's and Teresa's heads off. More and more of them flew from the drones' room, zipping by and planting trees in the cracks between stones, in pots intended for vegetables, even right in front of their spider as they marched along. Luckily, Bonnie could walk right over the precious saplings. "We have to get Thomas and stop him," Teresa screamed. "He's going after the doctor's most important invention." "We don't even know what that is," John yelled back. But Teresa believed she knew. The Big Zero was at the end of the eastern wing, the former Headley's department store. She thought Thomas must be headed there. Marie Curie could roll faster than Teresa's spider could crawl. She weaved in and around the palmetto trees and flowering shrubs and freshly planted saplings, dodging drones and heading straight for her brother Thomas. "Go, go, go!" John shouted. Teresa decided that, as soon as possible, she should not only give Bonnie pressurized boots to allow her to jump, but she should also modify her servo motors so that she could move faster than 12 miles per hour. She also wished Bonnie had a shield of some kind to protect her from all the dive-bombing drones. But finally, when they reached the eastern wing and saw Miss Curie holding on to Thomas Edison's winter coat as he tried to wriggle out of it, Teresa and John jumped from the spider and ran to them. Marie was wrestling her brother, doing anything she could to keep him from getting away. "You can't, Tommy! I won't let you! You don't know what he's capable of!" "That's why I must destroy that evil thing!" Thomas cried desperately to his sister as they tumbled to the ground. "Father wouldn't want you to." "I know that, Marie, but Father doesn't understand the implications of his own creation. Now, let me go!" Marie Curie would not, but Thomas managed to dislocate his own metal arm so that he could escape his coat. Marie took a hold of one sleeve and pulled. Thomas spun around 3 times before he righted himself, and then he once again started running for the Big Zero. Teresa realized she had just the thing to stop him. She jumped into her spider's driver's seat and grabbed a hold of her dual grappling hook slingshots and fired. Zip! The hooks flew through the air and grabbed hold of Thomas by his shoulders, flipping him backward. Miss Curie flew by Teresa and belly flopped on her brother. Then Zachary Flax stepped out of his laboratory. "What is the meaning of all this?" he bellowed. Some of the drones had flown toward them, looking for dirt to plant their tree saplings. Zachary swatted at them in anger, sending several of them plummeting to the ground. "Who has unleashed this chaos?" "The children," Marie Curie said desperately. It was the children who let them out and let Thomas in. I'll escort my brother out, and I promise, Mr. Flax, you will never be bothered by him again."
"Oh, no, you won't,"
Thomas yelled, throwing his sister off him and charging toward Zachary with fury. He put his hands forward, and from his mechanical fingers sprang 10 sharp metal claws that extended 6 inches each.
"You are in danger,"
Thomas screamed to Zachary.
"You are the invention that must be destroyed. You have betrayed my father for the last time."
Thomas really was malfunctioning, Teresa thought. Why else would he think Zachary was some kind of evil invention? But then Teresa and John gasped in horror as Zachary unscrewed his right arm from its socket and dropped it to the floor. It landed with a clang. It wasn't an arm made of flesh. It was a plastic and metal shell that hid Zachary's real arm, a long silver prod that hummed and crackled with electricity. As Thomas rushed toward him, Zachary's eyes blazed with hatred. He thrust the electric prod forward. Thomas launched through the air with a push from his pressurized boots. But Zachary, far faster than Thomas, ducked and swung his silver arm up, striking Thomas right in the chest. With a loud, crackling kzzz, an electric surge ran through his little robotic body and he fell to the ground. His battery overloaded, his power source knocked out. Marie Curie wheeled over to him and swept her lifeless brother into her arms. And although she wasn't capable of manufacturing tears, she cried out loud, as if she could. "No!" she cried. "Not my poor Tommy!" She cradled his head and tried to reset his central processing unit, but he would not turn on, his eyes remaining dark. "My brave, determined, foolish Tommy," she cooed, swaying back and forth on her single wheel, her forehead pressed against his. Zachary stood himself up, cleared his throat, straightened his shirt, and tightened his tie. Then he picked up his false arm, screwed it back into place to hide the electric prod. When he saw Teresa and John frozen with fear, staring at him, trying to make sense of what had happened, he chuckled smugly. "You don't even know who I am, do you?" Teresa and John certainly didn't. "You children," he said scornfully, "so smart and yet so naive. I am the greatest thing to ever be born in this laboratory. Me. I'm the most advanced model of artificial intelligence the world has ever seen. Even my uncle can't see that his most brilliant creation is not a bionic baby bottom buffer or a fiber reverberator or anything that might restore balance to this planet. Of course not. The doctor's finest invention is a robot designed to be smarter than the doctor himself. In that he succeeded, for that robot is yours truly, the prototype for the next species to reign over all others. Perfection personified and the first of many to come. Me, Zachary Flax the First."